Garage. I'm Andy Phillips. Today we're going to talk about how to remove the intake manifold on a Pontiac Fiero GT. Let's get started. One of the first things you're going to need is you're going to need a 10mm 12-point socket, and that's what will be needed to take the bolts off of the intake manifold. You can get these at hardware stores. You can get them at like Home Depot, Lowe's. You can get them at car stores. All of those places, but let me get a close-up of it for you so you can see exactly what this socket looks like.
That's what this particular socket looks like. What I have is a universal one. It can be used to remove a 12-point, your basic bolts, or any of those kind of unique style bolts, which the Pontiac Fiero GT has on its intake manifold. There's one of the bolts there. As you can see, it has the 12 points on it, but you're going to have 10 of these total on the intake manifold that have to be removed in order to get that taken off. Okay, all 10 bolts have been removed. You have 5 along the back of the intake manifold, and then you have your 5 right here in the front. So now they're all removed. So now we're going to get ready to remove all the cables and lines and stuff to clear it so we can get that taken off with no obstructions.
Okay, getting ready to remove all of the cables and hoses off the intake manifold, the upper part. I'm going to go ahead and take off the connection here on the map sensor right here. Then this is the EGR control solenoid. Went ahead and disconnected that. We're going to just kind of move that out of the way. We're going to go ahead and remove that hose here on the throttle body. There's a couple inputs here. We're going to go ahead and unplug those. Got to remove these ignition cables coming from the distributor cap wrapping around this intake cover. So we're going to go ahead and take all that off, and then we'll be back, and then we'll get ready to pop this off. Be gentle with those. Tuck them off to the side. Just remember where you're pulling them from so they go back in the right spot. Okay. Move those off. Okay, go ahead. Be gentle with this. Slide that off. Pull this off gently. Go ahead and move that out of the way. Now we're going to go ahead and remove these 2 bolts here. They're holding the throttle cable onto the throttle body. That's also a 10mm 12-point. So let's go ahead and take them off. Next, we're going to go ahead and remove the map sensor from the manifold. And to do so, you have a bolt right there, which I believe that is a 10mm. So we're going to go ahead and get that off. Going to go ahead now, remove this line, pull it out gently. Okay, went ahead and lifted it up a little bit. You can see the gasket right here. Just be careful with that you don't damage that. Make sure it stays intact when you're removing this. Next thing you're going to want to do is to remove the throttle body from the intake plenum, and it has 2 bolts, and those are actually Torx bolts. They are T40s is what you're going to need as far as the bit to remove them. So let's go ahead and get those off, and then we'll go from there.
And there's one right underneath, under here. I'm going to go ahead and remove that. Okay, you can see right there, that's the lower bolt. It's kind of tucked there in the back from the rest of the throttle body, but you'll find it underneath.
To give better access to get to the lower bolt, went ahead and removed the intake hose, the rubber piece that connects here to the throttle body. So now that's out of the way. That'll give me more space to get underneath to get that last bolt off.
Okay, both bolts have been removed. There's the throttle body, you can see it separated from the intake plenum right there. So now that's freed up a little bit more. So now we have take a look and see what else needs to be removed, and I think we'll be ready to remove the plenum completely. Well, the last thing holding the intake manifold plenum from being able to be removed is this EGR tube right here, which is connected underneath. It looks like a piece of conduit if you look. That's what it looks like. And it looks like I'm probably going to have to remove the distributor cap in order to get to it. There's 2 bolts holding that in. Once we get that removed, then we can go ahead and just pop this all off. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the distributor cap now, which you can see here is just connected by 2 Phillips screws that we're going to go ahead and remove and then pop that off.
All right, the distributor cap has been removed, placed off here to the side, and you can see the EGR tube now, and you see the 2 10mm bolts. However, it's still a little tight right here with this line, so I think I'm going to come here to the EGR valve and go ahead and disconnect it from here. That way we can at least pull the intake manifold plenum off, or at least pull it out of the way to give us more room so we can get under here and get that off. And then that's the last thing holding that on, and then we can get that out of here. And then there's another vacuum line that's underneath that we'll get to when we get that lifted up higher. The outer bolt is easily taken off with a 10mm socket. However, the inner one, because of the tight squeeze, you're going to have to use a 10mm wrench in order to get in there. In order to twist that out, the socket won't fit in there. All right, you can see we went ahead and removed both. So now, see that moves? So as we lift the intake, there we go. Now we got it off. So we can slide this off now, and then we'll be able to raise it up and take it off underneath where it's connecting in. There's a little plate right here. We'll slide that off. Get a look at it right there. You'll see right under here, one last vacuum line that needs to be removed. Got to be careful with that one, because I think I may have cracked it. If so, I'll just go ahead and replace that. Yeah, I think I did. But you need to pop that one off, and then you're done. Okay, here we go. The EGR tube has been disconnected from the valve. We still have it connected on the bottom, but here is the intake plenum completely detached. Okay, so here we have it right here. This is the upper portion of the intake manifold, the plenum, completely removed. We still have the EGR tube connected, which is 2 10mm bolts. We're going to go ahead and pop those off. And then we're going to go ahead and take this, clean it off real good, degrease it, and then we're going to go ahead and refinish it. And then we'll go ahead and put it back in. So let's go ahead and remove the EGR tube, and that way we can wrap this video up. Using a 10mm. Go ahead. There we go. All right, well, we went ahead, removed the EGR tube. All that's been removed, everything's good to go, all cleared off. that pretty much wraps up our video for today. Please send any questions, comments. I hope this video helped you out. As always, we appreciate all your support, so please subscribe, like this video, and we'll see you next time.